So my goal with my talk is that not only am I relatable, but that you are spurred into action, because hopefully you look at me and go, man, if that dude can do it, so can I. So I'm hopefully, yeah, okay. So who am I? Why should you listen to me? Well, I'm the owner and medical director of Springs Body Sculpting in beautiful Colorado Springs, Colorado. Owner, medical director, VKMD Institute of Medical Aesthetics. That is a school for estheticians. And I'm also a medical director and part owner of a women's medical device company. I've been practicing OBGYN for 18 years. Married, father of 4. So, I put this image up there to get a little sympathy, cut me a little slack. Because I think a lot of times you wonder what's going on in someone's private life where they think, oh, well, they can do all this stuff with their career because they got all this time. And I'm here to tell you I do not have time. I have 4 kids still living at home, all involved in sports, soccer, softball, volleyball, dance. I had to sit and think about it. And, you know, our life is chaotic, but I am blessed, and we make it work. But I do think it's important to share this because it does give you the whole picture of what somebody's dealing with maybe at home, not just at work. So, next slide, please. So how did I get here? Well, babies. And they're cute. Look how cute that little baby is. But babies don't care about me. They don't care about my sleep. They don't care about my weekends. And the more I got to know babies, I realized they're pretty selfish. And they are. 10 years in, 2 in the morning, sitting between one of my patients' legs as they scream their baby out, and any manner of bodily fluids is filling my shoe. And I'm questioning every decision I have ever made to put me at that position at that time. And I also was working for corporate medicine. And if anyone's been in that role, you know, it's not as fulfilling as you'd like. You feel like you're kind of just a cog in the big machine. And honestly, I didn't even know how I got paid. I did not feel that I got paid commensurate to the work I was doing. And anyone who's been in medicine of that type knows what an RVU is. Anyone know what RVU stands for? Well, that in my world, it was ridiculously vague unit. Because it's hard. People don't believe that I did not know if I did something like a hysterectomy or a delivery. I don't know what I got paid for it because it was just like this calculation. And I'm like, okay. So, next slide. This is not working. So I had a choice to make. You know, keep my head down, do the safe thing, keep laboring for corporate medicine, you know, get all the way through to retirement. Or do I reach for something more? And I think, you know, obviously being up here, you probably know, well, I did the latter. I reached for something else. And how did I get to aesthetics? Well, I would say in large part, it was my patients. They would come to me after delivering a baby, and their bodies changed so much, and they're asking me, well, what do I do about my breast lift? What do I do? I got these stretch marks. And initially, I would be sending them to other people, and they would be like, hey, I like you. Why can't you do it? I'm like, well, you're right. I can. And so I started looking into it. And let's be honest, too. Med spas are kind of sexy. They're cool. And I thought, I can do this. I want to do this. And so I finally, did a little market research as good as I could do. And again, theme of my talk is, I'm not special. I did what I thought I could do with market research. It wasn't fancy. But I overcame my paralysis of analysis and signed my first lease in 2016. And I will tell you, it was a doozy. I don't know why that particular location caught my eye, but I was in a strip mall next to a supplement store on one side, a dentist on the other, and I shared a parking lot with a Walmart. Next slide. So for me to make this work, I'm still practicing OBGYN full-time, which is, I always tell people, that's not full-time, that's like 2 times. That's 1.5 to 2 times what a normal person works. And so Cool Sculpting at the time was at the height of its popularity, and it certainly fit my business model because it was definitely delegatable. So I am, as you'll see as the slides progress, I'm like Mr. All-In. So I didn't buy 1 machine, I bought 2. Because, you know, the rep told me you got to dual sculpt. So, okay, we're gonna dual sculpt. And initially it actually was working. It was working pretty well. I dumped a bunch of money into marketing, and I had streams of people coming in, and it was working. And I'm gonna see, next slide. So what's the problem? Well, it was a narrow offering. And anyone who's familiar with Cool Sculpting, which I'm sure most of you are, it's kind of a 1 and maybe 2 and done. I didn't have anything else to keep clients coming back. So once they were done, they left. And I had a harder and harder time getting new clients to come in. And once the volume dropped, I was really starting to feel the burn of the very high consumable cost of Cool Sculpting. And so at that point, I was about 2 years in, and I realized I think I'd gotten this about as far as I'm going to get it with my current, you know, lack of time in the devices that I had. That's when I met Kelsey. Kelsey became my business partner. Kelsey was a veteran of the med spa industry. She was a regional director for a national chain, but was kind of over the whole big corporation feel of it. Wanted to open her own place. I certainly needed help, and who introduced us was one of my reps. Kelsey used to be her boss. Anyhow, so we got together, and it's kind of a match made in heaven to revamp that med spa. Next slide, please. And so she helped me get to work right away. We revamped my offerings. We bought a couple new devices. I started doing injectables. We added skincare line, and we even rebranded. And it was working. We were getting more revenue, more patients. But it had kind of occurred to me, it was just one of these creeping thoughts that just boils up to the surface, that after 3 years now, I had created an unremarkable med spa experience. Because everybody else in that town did what I was doing. Next slide. So, here we are. We're just getting traction. Literally, within like months, COVID hit. So, in Colorado, we were shut down immediately. Everyone was shut down. And it was not just a gut punch, because I really did feel like, man, we had dug out and we were doing it, and now we're shut down. But it was a gut check, because it's kind of that point where you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, this is do or die right now. And I did consider shutting down, no question. Anyone would. But I knew I wasn't ready to let it go. And so, Mr. All In, I doubled down. And a lot of other med spas had stopped advertising altogether. I increased my ad spend because advertising was really cheap. And we were like expanding our audience. And it was actually, in that regard, it was a nice opportunity. But we knew we still had not distinguished ourselves yet. We're still just another med spa. And then in walks Luke from InMode, like Clint Eastwood from Pale Rider. I don't know if anyone ever watch Pale Rider, know what movie I'm talking about. It's a Western from the 80s, and Clint Eastwood is this tall, handsome stranger that rides into town, distrusts it initially, ends up being the savior of the town. Next slide. So, we're shut down. I got time, right? What am I going to do? So, he wants to meet with me and talk to me about this Body Tight machine. And so, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, the nerve this guy has. We're shut down. We're not bringing in revenue. You're coming into me to tell me that I need to buy your device. And I'm looking at Kelsey, my partner, and I'm like, see this guy? And she looks at me and she's like, I actually agree with him. And I'm thinking, et tu, Brute? Like, What? And come to find out, she had already been talking to Luke, and the two of them had been conspiring to save me from myself. Because what was going to distinguish us was body type. And of course, I am initially intensely intrigued because over the next whatever hour, they're talking to me about this device and what it can do for people. But of course, I can't show him. I'm like this, can't show the rep that you're interested at all. But I'm intrigued, and I'm starting to wonder, maybe they're right. And they overcome every one of my objections, honestly. And as crazy as it is, we ended up buying this device during a COVID shutdown. I still sit there and go, and part of that conversation, I think it's kind of interesting to say that he kept telling me, I think this is going to be a home run for you. And I kept telling him, you don't understand, like this, for me to do this right now, this needs to be a grand slam. And ultimately, this thing ended up being a walk-off grand slam, the likes of which I had no idea. Next slide. So, again, we purchased this device. And I punched my ticket to Bentonville, Arkansas. And if anyone's done body type training, they know what it is. It's the home of Walmart. But it's also the home of the Aesthetics Training Institute, ATI. And that's where scared doctors like me learn how to do liposuction and learn how to do body type. And I quickly learned that I didn't just buy a device. I bought a whole support system because all those people, this picture was just one of the examples, but I met all these other docs, really awesome people. They were in a similar position as I am. They understood my, whatever it takes, and we shared a lot of things. But I got mentors too. Dr. Ramirez and Dr. Menendez really do walk you through this and hold your hand through this process, because it is scary. I'm not going to lie. Buying the device is scary. Learning something new is scary. So I get done with the training. We come back, and we start talking more seriously about this procedure to patients, and we're realizing very quickly the demand for this was far exceeding what I thought it could possibly be. And so we were already doing the whole COVID packages, so we're pre-selling this. And yeah, I was given huge discounts. I'll give it that. 40, 50% off. But the deal was, they had to put their money right up front and pay us and just trust that once we opened up, we would do the procedure. So, next slide. And so we're selling all these things, and Kelsey's just busy at work every day. I wasn't even there every day. So by the time, before we realize it, we have a bunch of people sign up for this. And when we finally reopened, I could barely keep up with the demand. We were in there until 7 o'clock at night doing these procedures. And what I realized very quickly was this was exactly what I was hoping it would be, because the results we were getting were a quantum leap. Yes, I said quantum. Were a quantum leap beyond what I was offering before. And that was the secret sauce we were looking for. And I realized then it fundamentally changed our position in that market. We are no longer competing against every Starbucks med spa. We weren't. We were now competing probably with only 3, maybe 4. And I got so busy, and we were creating so much revenue that I stopped taking call in 2021, which was monumental for me because that was the whole point. That was the whole point of me going into this. Next slide. So this is just a real rough revenue slide talking about the body type and face type and Morpheus 8. So we got it in 2020. And again, this was halfway through 2020. So there's a little asterisk next to 2020. And we were given huge discounts. And we still brought in over 200,000. You do the math, you could make the argument, well, in the last 6 months of 2020, I already made enough revenue to pay for that device. Look at 21. 3 times. It kept growing and growing and growing. And in just 2.5 years, it was well over $1 million in revenue. From that one device. That wasn't our whole med spa. That was just that device. Next slide. So what did that do for us? We got out of the strip mall with Walmart, not the place, you're thinking is going to instill a lot of confidence in people coming in and saying, you're going to do lipo on me, and right next to Walmart. And so we're, okay, this is a quote from Step Brothers, but we were cashing checks and snapping necks, just doing our thing. We didn't even know. We're just all in our silo. And it was the InMode reps that told us. They came by and they're like, what are you guys doing? We're like, what? They're like, you're number one by a long shot in Colorado. You're actually, I think, the past 3 years, there's only one other clinic in about 7 states that beats us. And we're not that big. And we're like, I don't know, we're just doing our thing. So it elevated that one thing, and this whole talk, this series is kind of about the surgically inspired med spa. I didn't get there through cool sculpting. It was not that. It was liposuction, or radiofrequency assisted liposuction. That's what got me there. And so we became a real player in our market. And to date, I think 2.5 million in revenue is still, that's actually a low estimate from that one device. Next slide, please. So it's kind of like, I hope I got your attention now. If you're considering doing this, put ideas into action. And InMode is a company you can trust. They've been around a while. And I just did some digging on them after BodyTite was my first InMode device. And I'm like, man, this company's awesome. So I'm looking into it. They've been around since 2008. Phenomenal growth due to their technology and their training. And they're based out of Israel. And I don't know why. Maybe someone can tell me why all the best stuff comes out of Israel. I don't know, like all the lasers are Israeli. Next slide. So all this success can create a whole nother problem. And that is, you don't want to become the rate limiting step in your success. And so I needed to keep growing, but I needed to kind of expand and change. So I needed devices and technology that not only I could do more treatments quicker, but I could delegate. And that's when I started to I learned more about InMode, and I got introduced to their whole portfolio. So yeah, I'm all in. Next slide. And so now, the first device we had was the BodyTite Pro. We upgraded to the Ignite. The next one, the Ignite was not next. The next one was Empower RF, and then the Ignite came out. But then we've since got Optimus, Triton, and what you don't see, because I couldn't find a picture of it, was the Apex. So we have all of these devices in my med spa because InMode technology, without a doubt, has taken me in our med spa to places I never thought I would be. And it is my opinion that their technology seems to be that gives the best results. They have the best training. Their stuff doesn't break down. I do not have problems with their machines. And they really have become the backbone of everything we do. Yeah, do we have other machines? Yeah, we do. But they're like a support. They're a support kind of role. They are not our main dish, ever. Next slide. And so I was asked to come up with kind of 2 key actions I've taken to increase growth of InMode procedures. And when I thought about this, honestly, for me, it was always about results. What has worked the best, and rather than get into some marketing talk about how to put your dollars, put your effort into results. It markets itself. And so I always talk about be critical. Be critical on yourself. Continuous self-improvement, especially when you're talking about something like liposuction. Okay, there's a lot of operator-dependent results there. So don't ever settle. Don't be happy. Keep getting better and better and better. And your results will sell themselves. And then the second one was, and we're doing a talk tomorrow, I'm actually doing it with Kelsey, about employee engagement and getting them into the decision-making process early, getting them to buy in. And so when they're bought in and you bring on a new technology, your pathway to success is like far fewer hurdles. And again, if you can do those two things, I feel like everything else kind of takes care of itself. Next slide, please. And so, at the end of the day, my hope is, one of the major takeaways from the talk is, I'm really not that special. I'm not. I work hard, I feel like I'm smart, but at the end of the day, I don't have a marketing degree. I didn't know how to run a med spa. There's a lot of things I didn't know, and so, but some of you out there may have these qualities or these attributes that might even make it easier for you in your pathway forward. But you can't. Sometimes the old saying I had on the earlier slide was the not being able to move forward because you're just frozen by not being able to make a decision. And I would just tell you, you can't climb Everest without your first step. And you just got to start with the first step. Next slide. And this is kind of what I just went into, is that you don't need all the answers to be successful. You really don't. And the analogy I always use is Lewis and Clark. When they started out from St. Louis, you think they knew every mountain they were going to have to climb, every river they were going to have to ford? Absolutely, they did not. They had their goal, and they knew they had to make it to the Pacific Ocean. And each time, they just figured it out. And it's not that different in the med spa world or in business in general. I think if I would say one thing that has gotten me through a lot of things that maybe I'm special in, one thing is commit. Like, commit. Those babies helped me to commit because I knew they were always waiting for me at 2 in the morning if I didn't make this work. So commitment and just double down. Don't be scared to go all in sometimes. And I know, again, can be scary, but sometimes that's the old adage of don't have a plan B. You don't have a plan B, guess what? There's nothing, you got to keep moving forward. So Pacific is your spot. You can't stop until you get to the Pacific. So anyhow, thank you so much for your attention. Appreciate it.